Hello there, I'm Scotty, and you're not. And I figured that since last year I covered Adam Sandler movies from the 90s, I would take the time to. Hello there, I'm Scotty, and you're not. And I thought since last year I took the time to cover the 90s. Hello there, I'm Scotty, and you're not. And I thought that since last year I looked at the Adam Sandler movies from the 90s, I would take the time to look. Hello there. I'm okay. Yes, I'm doing the 10-second Tom thing. Alright. So, hello there. I like having a counter. Like it, just keep going with this if I wanted to. Just wait another few seconds and then I can just go. Hello there. I'm Scotty and you're not. Okay. So obviously we're talking about 51st Dates. So let me do the intro again. Not the hello part, but I did things since last year. I covered Adam Sandler movies from the 90s that I grew up with. I would look at some Adam Sandler films from the 2000s that I grew up with. And, well, I was in high school when these films came out. Then I'm going to be talking about, like, that. My cutoff for when I talk about movies from my childhood for birth month is usually 2004. I pushed it back to 2005. For a couple movies this year. Technically, I was 18 and I was still in high school though. So, but I graduated high school in 2006. So, the last Adam Sandler movie I'm doing this year is kind of from the year I graduated. But we were talking about First Dates this time. A movie starring Adam Sandler, of course, and Drew Barrymore. It's a romantic comedy that, in some weird way, works. It's about Henry Roth, who is a womanizer, who, wants to have one-night stands with women who are not from the island of Hawaii, which is where he lives and works. But one day he comes across a local named Lucy, and he ends up really liking her and ends up falling for her. The only problem is she has been in a car accident a year earlier and suffers from short-term memory loss, where she can't remember anything that happened outside of a day. Every night she goes to sleep, her brain resets, and, And so, how do you do a romantic comedy where one of your characters, can't remember anything? It's honestly an interesting idea, and I think, as weird as it is, they pulled it off with this. The movie was directed by Peter Siegel, yes, who directed Tommy Boy, and now, when I was going into this, I was thinking that maybe someone other than Adam Sandler could have handled this better. Honestly, I don't think so. Maybe some of the side characters a little too much, like the vaguely European woman that works for Henry is maybe a little too much. And then you have Ula, played by Rob Schneider, who's a little annoying at first, because I was ready to say that maybe if Adam Sandler wasn't around, some of these actors wouldn't be involved. But it's like, I actually think Ula's a decent character by the end. There are some jokes with him that don't work, like how he later makes a joke about, oh, you sure you want to marry her, brother? You want to marry her, cause? Because, she, about 10 or 15 years, she could let herself go, and then like, well, your wife's right there, and it's like, well, I'm just kidding, Momo. It's like, hey, I don't know, but sometimes his jokes are hit or miss, which with Rob Schneider is normal, I guess. But yeah, so I think that, this is my overall, of course, I think this is handled real well. Easily could have tipped into the, like they could have just played this up for last, and they could have had Henry be this. They could have went the route of, because they even mention it, where Henry's like, where they're like, hey, you're always after a one-night stand. You could literally keep doing this with her. And I feel like in a lesser movie with a lesser director and even a lesser actor than Adam Sandler, they would do that. And it would be that whole, I'm going to sleep with this woman every day. I have this, you know. But then the guilt piles on, and then he has a change of heart and realizes he is falling for this girl. That's one way to handle it. But I think they actually handle it very well, because there's even a line where he has suggested this, and he even goes, well, there's just one problem. That's evil. And I like that. And like, he doesn't just go, that's a good idea. No, he says that's evil. So, you know, even though Henry is after a one-night stand, he's not a completely bad person. Not a completely good person, but at the end of the film, he may be a little bit better. So, yeah. But my big hang-up with this movie is, towards the end, we have to do the romance, the third act breakup that you see in these kind of romantic comedies. It happens in a lot of them, right? Third act breakup has to happen because that's the template, right? Then they get back together at the end, and it just, maybe more so in this one, it feels unnecessary. And even the end part is kind of iffy for me as to how it would work, but let's go through the movie now. And let's talk about it. So we start off with this montage of women talking about how great they had on their vacation, and all of them say that it was Henry Roth, except for one of them. She says his name is Harry Paratesticles, and she surprisingly is the ugly fat chick. As you would see, she's not that bad looking, but the Henrys, you know, for Henry, possibly. So, yeah, that's the joke. He's a womanizer. And we meet Henry. He works at this zoo, I guess, in Hawaii. And they have penguins there. I don't think penguins would be able to survive in that kind of climate. I know that they have kind of habitats for that, but this penguin's just walking around in broad daylight, and it's like, it's hot in Hawaii, like super hot, brother. So I don't know if penguins will be able to survive. I'm not an expert, so who knows? They might be able to. The zoo might be able to accommodate them. I don't know. But yeah, and I always forget, even I just watched this movie and I forget why he ends up going in this particular diner, but he goes in there and he meets Lucy. He helps her out. She's building a Waffle House, and then he helps her with the door, putting a toothpick in. And this is their meet cute, as the kids call it today. I'm hip. And yeah, like he comes in there, and I think he's waiting for something. I don't remember. And they're like, "You want something to eat?" He goes, "No, I already had breakfast." And he goes, well, "What do you have?" "I had peanut butter cup and a Gatorade." "Oh, that's not breakfast. I'm making some spam eggs." And you get the joke. I love this joke, but because I quote it all the time. He goes, "Hey, you want to put peanut butter cups in your eggs?" I'm like, now, you guys know me, I'm a weirdo. So this might not come as a surprise. I've never tried it, but I've always thought about it. What if I got some peanut butter cups and put them in my eggs? I don't know if that would work. I'm thinking about bringing back Cooking with Scotty. Maybe one of these days I'll just do that for the hell of it. Who knows? So, peanut butter cups aren't that expensive, right? I could go get them, run over and get some anyway. Do I have any money? Let's look at my Dragon Ball Z wallet. Today on Dragon Ball Z, Scotty has $1 to his name. Hola! How much are peanut butter cups? Yes, I want to try it. We'll see how that goes. I'm on vacation, so I can literally go anytime. Do it. I got some quarters I might be able to scrounge up. Who knows? But anyway, yes, I will try it. But anyway, yeah, so he meets Lucy, and they have a nice conversation, and then the next, they make a date to see each other again, and the next day he shows up, and she freaks out on him, because he makes stuff in conversation that he came up with. Like, oh, he smells like fish and stuff like that. And so he makes, some jokes, or not even jokes, he just makes small talk that you would say if you already met someone. Like, hey, my hands are extra fishy for you. I was petting my walrus and I was thinking about you. And yes, that sounds really weird and creepy, but she would already know. And normally she would already know he works at the zoo and the sea animals and stuff like that. But in this context, it doesn't. She freaks out, and this is when he is told the truth that a year earlier she was in a car accident that caused damage to her head, and she can't remember anything outside of. She remembers everything that happened before the crash, but yeah, everything after that, nothing. There are some hang-ups on this, though. So we find out later she was in the hospital for 3 months. How does that work? Like, she's been in a hospital for 3 months. You have to keep explaining every day why she's in the hospital. Was she in a coma for 3 months? Because that makes more sense. We can't keep explaining every day. And I know they said that they've explained this to her before because there is a bad day that happens. And a couple times, actually, but they have to explain it, But it's just. So the thing is, we then focus to Lucy and her family, and her dad, played by Blake Clark, and her brother Doug, played by Sean Astin, with an annoying lisp. Look, I understand you want to have a quirk for this character, but he's already like a steroid, testosterone dude. Why junkie, whatever? Why do you gotta give me the lisp to talk like this? It sounds kind of weird, and it always annoys me when he talks like this. It's just like, you could have just taken that out, but it's an Adam Sandler movie. If there wasn't at least one annoying character, at least in this one, it's not played by Adam Sandler. I mean, more than I can say for other movies. Little Nicky. Hey, look, I love Little Nicky, but there's only so much of this I can take. And yes, I will be doing that review one of these days. But, not this year. I don't have it. I don't own it. So, yeah, that's a weird one. That's one I always like. But anyway, so yeah. So then he tries unsuccessfully to pick her up. And I feel like a couple of these, like, the first thing he does is try to reenact when they first met. Like, he bets the guy. He's like, hey, I can get her to like me, So he does the toothpick thing again. Only this time, she gets mad because he's touching her food, and I'm like, well, why did it work the first time then? If she doesn't like that, why did it work the first time? And then one time he goes in and she starts talking Chinese. That feels like padding. Like, this whole scene where he keeps going back in to and has these encounters, it feels like padding. Like, we need to pad her on kind of. Let's have him fail at picking her up, even though, like, a couple of these make no sense. Like, eventually he gets told he can't go to the diner anymore, and so he starts setting up this thing on the road to pick her up, and that doesn't work. And eventually he's brought up by the parents. He actually likes her, but they say that there's no relationship with Lucy, which I get. He somehow makes it work, though. We see this whole thing where, with the dad and the brother, where they do the same thing every day, because they're going to pick a pineapple. He already has one. And then, every Sunday she goes to the diner, and that day, which was her dad's birthday, was a Sunday when it happened. So, yeah, and she comes home. They have the same thing. There's the same videotape of The Sixth Sense, which they watch every day, and she paints this room every day, and every day they paint over it. And my problem with that is, like, paint I don't know. Yeah, I mean, because she goes to bed and then you have to paint over what she did, and it has to dry. When did she wake? I don't know. I don't know. It's very weird, and everybody has to like. Okay, so my big hang up with this is, how does Henry not already know about her, and how is this not like a big thing on the island? You think that it would spread fast, you know what I mean? But it seems like, other than people at an institute, whatever it is, the hospital institution thing, institution hospital, what institute, whatever. Uh, the only people that know about it are Nick, Sue, who work at the diner, uh, and the dad and brother. There's no one else that knows about this besides their doctors and them and Henry now. Like, okay, so they must have this all set up, even with like the local police department, right? Wrong, because a cop shows up saying her tags on her license plate are expired. And so at first you're like, so has this never happened before? Because if she's been driving that same vehicle with the same tags for a year, how has she not gotten pulled over before? And but then she comes home and they're like, "Oh, bad day," and I'm like, "So this has happened before?" And so they have to tell her everything, and they say, "Oh, we've been through this time and time again." Like, they've had bad days where they've had to explain it to her, but then they just let it. And to a point, I agree with Henry here. Like, they just let her forget it, and it's like, but that's, in his own words, that's kind of evil. Like, oh, she'll have a bad day, but it doesn't matter because she's just gonna forget about it. We ain't gotta worry about that. She'll have a bad day, but she won't remember the next day, so we can just let it blow over. That's avoiding conflict. That's just like, oh, we're gonna tell you all this stuff, but you'll forget about it in the morning, so it's okay. But how many times, like, how many tickets does she have? Does the dad just keep paying the tickets for her? What? Like, you think if she's had the same tags for a year that something would happen. You think that by this point the law enforcement would be in on it, unless this is a new cop. I don't know. It's very confusing. Because of this, Henry has the idea to make a videotape using, files, her hospital files and stuff, and telling her, how they met and everything, and about everything going down. And it works. It works. And then she even starts writing things down in a journal each day, new things. And they even start dating. And they do this montage where she keeps saying nothing like a first kiss. And I'm like, okay, why does she keep saying that? Is it a running joke between them? But he even acts like he's had it. Like he's, it's cause she gets the information every day, so she should know that they've been dating and it's not the first kiss, but she keeps saying it. Kind of confusing. But yeah, I should mention they do go to the institute where we get Dr. Dan Aykroyd here. We meet 10-Second Tom, played by Alan Covert, who is an often collaborator with First Dates and is in one of my favorite comedies of all time, Grandma's Boy. But here he plays 10-Second Tom, and he's a running joke throughout the film, like, "Hi, I'm Tom." And there's also another running joke where Doug's on steroids, and they talk about how he has wet dreams, and then there's the whole thing, "Aren't you a little too old for wet dreams?" What kind of wet dreams are they talking about? Is it like he's pissing his pants? Or is it causing him to arrive in his sleep? Because when I think of wet dreams, I always think, as an adult, I think of arriving in your pants in your dreams when you're asleep. But wet dreams could also be pissing your pants, I guess, and you pissing the bed. But I don't know. So they got this system going, and it's going great, but then they throw a monkey wrench in this because They both fall asleep. Even though they know that if they fall asleep, the next day's not going to be good. I mean, but it's another thing with that, okay, we'll have a bad day, but we'll just work on it, But they fall asleep and they wake up, and she doesn't remember him. Even though he keeps thinking, oh, she's going to remember me, but she's, and she hits him in the head, right? And then Dr. Dan Aykroyd shows up, and they have a conversation. He's like, I think she's starting to remember me. He's like, no, I'm sorry, but because he's Canadian. But I don't think that's ever going to happen. They think it's permanent, so. And they talk about he's going to go out there on this little trip, but he's decided not to go because he wants to be with Lucy. So Lucy's response to this is to tell him to break up with him, basically, and say, I'm going to take everything about you out of my notebook, and we're going to have to do a new tape eventually. And I'm going to forget about you. And in concept, I think that would work. If that was the end of the movie. If they decided, okay, this isn't going to work and I got to move on, and he takes off into the distance and does his thing, and he names, like, what a whale or whatever it is he's looking at, one of them Lucy. And Ula is there, he's like, I moved on. As long as she's happy, I'm happy, that kind of ending. But we do go back, of course, because he gets ready to leave, and Doug and the dad show up, and he gives them a Beach Boys CD, which they said earlier. She sings the Beach Boys, Wouldn't It Be Nice, every day that she meets him, because it's a happy day, I guess. It was a song, like, her mother liked or something, I guess. A song that had something to do with her mother and her dad in love or something. And so he gives him the Beach Boys CD, which I had that CD. 20 Good Vibrations. I had that CD. It was a good CD. I want to get that CD back. I was a teenager, so I didn't take care of my CDs back then. There's a lot of CDs that I had back then that I'd like to get back. I really would. But anyway, so he plays the CD. Wouldn't it be nice if we could wake up? Yeah, that's the song that plays. Yeah, and then he realizes that the dad gave him that because maybe she does remember him. And then we do the gag where he runs back and he goes, Lucy Whitmore, do you remember me? Well, we'll do another gag first where he's running up and he's like, hi, I'm Tom. And I'm like, he's just in the way. Just name Lucy Whitmore, do you have any idea who I am? And she goes, no. And it's like, bum, bum, bum. Wah, wah, wah. But then they go back on that where she's like, come with me. And apparently she's painted a lot of pictures of him that are way too good to be actual paintings. But, some people are pretty good, I guess. But she painted a bunch of pictures of him. And while she doesn't know who he is, she has dreams about him. So there's some kind of, like, even, I don't know how that would work. Like, if you can't form memories anymore, how do you have dreams about someone that you have no memories of? It's kind of weird. But maybe this means that she's back into it. Who knows? But yeah, they end up kissing. We get one more, hi, I'm Tom thing where he pops in. And then, if the movie ended here, I think it would have been just fine. But they cut to her waking up. And she watches another tape. And we find out they're married now. Okay. And she goes up. Her dad's there. Okay. They're in Antarctica. Okay. They have a 5-year-old daughter. What? Okay. I know he said earlier in the film that they didn't want to have kids, and she said that couldn't happen. I'm going to wake up with a pregnant belly. I'm like, yeah, you probably couldn't have kids. Maybe they're adopted. Maybe she's adopted, but She's a little blonde girl like Drew Barrymore as well. Technically, she's not actually blonde, but how do I know? I've seen her Playboy pictures. Trust me, she's not blonde. Anyway, she's not a real blonde. Anyway, so yeah, they have a daughter, and I'm like, how did that work? I was like, hey, never, like every day she wakes up. What if she falls asleep when she's in the hospital ready to have the baby, and she wakes up and then like, we gotta play this tape for you. She has contractions, and it's like, we gotta play this tape for you. You gotta know what's going on. What if? When was the baby born? What part of the day did she fall asleep, and the next day she was having contractions? Oh my God! What? That would be the worst thing ever. To have the short-term memory loss and wake up to contractions, and then you just very confused as why you're pregnant when the next day you remember nothing. You remember that you were not pregnant. I don't know. It's very weird. And how do you explain it to your child? Your mommy, she doesn't remember very good. And I know that they said this was caused by the accident, but what if for some weird reason the child inherited this? Then you're gonna have to do it to both of them. Like, you're gonna have to do, I don't know. And this may sound, I don't know, mean. You could say it's mean, but like, to have to do this for the rest of your life, where you have to keep telling the woman you love, I don't know. I don't know how that worked. What if they got divorced? And it was like, hey, you agree? Because I could, if they were just married and they got divorced, they could just erase him, right? But they have a child together. So if they got divorced, like, hey, you had a car accident. By the way, you're 50 now. You had a car accident. You lost half of your brain there, and you met this guy named Henry. You guys got married. You had a daughter. You got divorced. Wish we could erase them, but your daughter is a constant. We gotta explain where she came from. I mean, they could also say that. No, that would work. And also with them having to do it, they said they've been doing it for almost a year. The brother and the dad. How long are they gonna keep having to watch The Sixth Sense and having to keep? It's been almost a year, and the dad's sitting there going, falling asleep watching the same thing. I don't know. It's really weird, but yeah, the ending is kind of iffy for me. But overall, I enjoy this movie, man. I think it's pretty good. This review's gone pretty long. Yeah, I would say that 50 First Dates is pretty good. So, what are your thoughts on 50 First Dates? I want to comment below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hello there. I'm Scotty, and you're not. I had to do it one more time. I'm sorry. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty. I'll see you in the next one.